The price of arrogance. The marble-white research station on Proxima B gleamed against the russet backdrop of the alien world's surface. For 15 years, it had stood as humanity's brightest beacon of peaceful scientific advancement in the galaxy. 3,000 of Earth's finest minds called it home, along with their families. They represented everything humanity aspired to be: curious, collaborative, and peaceful. Admiral Raina Harrison stood at the viewport of her personal quarters aboard the Earth Force Command vessel Vigilant, watching the station's regular status updates scroll across her display. The facility had been her idea, a way to show the galaxy that humans could contribute more than just their labor and resources to the greater galactic community. The Empire had even praised the initiative, calling it a charming effort by an emerging species. That patronizing praise made the incoming emergency signal even more bitter. The alert came without warning. The station's quantum communications array burst to life with a desperate message: Imperial warships dropping out of hyperspace. They're charging weapons. This is not a drill. The transmission cut off in a blast of static. Through the viewport, Harrison watched in horror as 5 Imperial dreadnoughts materialized around the station. Their massive forms dwarfed the research facility, casting long shadows across its pristine surface. There was no warning, no demands, no opportunity for surrender. The Empire's ships opened fire. The station's shields, designed for protection against solar radiation and micrometeorites, collapsed instantly under the barrage. Precise energy beams carved through the facility's outer sections, while missiles targeted the central hub. Within moments, the pride of human scientific achievement became an expanding cloud of debris and frozen atmosphere. 3,000 lives, extinguished in seconds. Harrison's hands gripped the viewport's frame until her knuckles turned white. The Empire had just made the most catastrophic miscalculation in its 10,000-year history. They thought they were teaching the upstart humans a lesson. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Admiral, her executive officer's voice was tight with controlled rage. We're receiving the Empire's official statement. They're claiming the station was developing prohibited weapons technology. They're calling it a preemptive peacekeeping action. Harrison's laugh was cold and sharp as broken glass. Peacekeeping. They just murdered 3,000 civilians. Scientists. Children. She turned from the viewport, her eyes hard. Send the Alpha signal to Earth Command. Authorization Harrison 7 Delta 0. The executive officer's eyes widened. The Alpha signal. But that means... Yes, Harrison nodded. It's time to show the Empire exactly what they've done. It's time to unveil Project Titan. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's oceans and hidden in asteroid bases throughout the solar system, massive hangar doors began to open. For 50 years, humanity had prepared for this possibility. While presenting a facade of minimal military capability to the galaxy, Earth had been building, learning, preparing. The first wave of ships began to rise. Each one was a masterpiece of human engineering, incorporating technologies the Empire believed impossible for primitive humans to achieve. Quantum shields capable of absorbing and redirecting energy weapons, gravity drives that could outmaneuver anything in the Imperial fleet, weapons that could crack planets. 500,000 dreadnoughts, each one more advanced than anything the Empire possessed. Harrison opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Admiral Harrison. The Empire has committed an act of war against humanity. They believed us weak. They believed us primitive. They believed they could murder our people without consequences. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. They were wrong. Execute Operation Titan. All ships, all waves. We're not fighting for territory or resources. We're fighting for justice. And we will have it. Across Earth, massive view screens showed the first wave of dreadnoughts rising into the sky. Their hulls gleamed with a dark, light-absorbing material that made them look like moving pieces of deep space. Each ship was nearly twice the size of an Imperial dreadnought, bristling with weapons emplacements, and protected by shields that seemed to bend light around them. In the Imperial Palace, the first reports of the human fleet were met with laughter. Surely this was some mistake. The humans were barely able to manage interstellar travel. They couldn't possibly have built such a fleet in secret. The laughter would soon die. Harrison took her place on the bridge of the flagship Nemesis. Around her, the crews of Earth's hidden fleet prepared for war. They had trained for this moment in secret for decades, generations of soldiers and sailors preparing for the day when humanity would need to stand up to the Empire's tyranny. All ships, battle formations. Harrison's voice was calm now, deadly calm. The Empire believed they could murder our people with impunity. They thought we were weak. Today they learn the cost of that arrogance. Today they learn why humanity has survived every challenge our harsh world has thrown at us. Today they learn to fear us. The dreadnoughts moved into position, their formation perfect, their crews ready. This was not a war humanity had wanted, but it was a war humanity would win. The price of the Empire's arrogance would be its own destruction. The hidden arsenal. For 50 years, Earth had kept its greatest secret buried beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean. The Titan complex stretched for hundreds of kilometers beneath the seafloor, a maze of manufacturing facilities and research laboratories that had produced humanity's insurance policy against extinction. As the first wave of dreadnoughts took position in high orbit, the facility's director, Dr. Aria Nakamura, watched through cameras as her life's work finally emerged into the light. Director, her assistant's voice wavered with emotion. The Empire's intelligence vessels have begun active scans of our fleet. They're trying to understand what they're seeing. Nakamura allowed herself a small, grim smile. Let them look. They're about to learn that their understanding of physics is rather incomplete. The dreadnoughts represented technological advancement that the Empire had deemed impossible for centuries. Their hulls were composed of metamaterials that could actively adapt to any form of attack, redistributing energy and becoming stronger with each hit. The quantum shields operated on principles that Imperial scientists had dismissed as theoretical, but humanity's greatest achievement lay in the ship's cores. Each dreadnought was powered by a contained artificial singularity, harnessing energy in ways that defied Imperial physics. The Empire had always believed that such technology was millennia beyond humanity's reach. They had never understood that necessity was the mother of invention, and humanity had felt that necessity keenly since first contact. Admiral Harrison's voice came through on a secure channel. Dr. Nakamura, the Empire's Third Fleet is moving to intercept. Time to show them what these ships can do. The first battle would be a demonstration. The Empire's Third Fleet consisted of 300 warships, considered more than enough to handle any uprising from a primitive species. They approached in standard Imperial formation, their weapons charged, their commanders confident in their technological superiority. The human dreadnoughts waited in perfect formation. Their dark hulls seemed to drink in the starlight, making them look like holes in space itself. When the Imperial fleet opened fire, their energy weapons at maximum power, humanity revealed its first surprise. The quantum shields didn't just block the attacks, they absorbed them, channeling the energy through the metamaterial hulls and into the ship's power systems. Each Imperial blast made the human ships stronger. The Empire's greatest weapons had become nothing more than a power source for their enemies. In the Imperial Palace, the first reports of the battle caused confusion that quickly turned to panic. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were using technology that shouldn't exist. The Emperor himself watched in disbelief as his ship's most powerful weapons proved worse than useless. Then the human fleet demonstrated its offensive capabilities. The dreadnoughts' main weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. They fired streams of controlled quantum singularities, microscopic black holes that devoured everything in their path before evaporating in bursts of Hawking radiation. Imperial shields, designed to deflect energy and physical projectiles, had no defense against weapons that distorted the fabric of space itself. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, the Empire's third fleet had ceased to exist. Not a single human ship was lost. Dr. Nakamura watched the after-action reports with clinical detachment. The metamaterial hulls performed above expectations, she noted. The energy absorption rate was 30% higher than our simulations predicted. Send that data to all ships in the second wave. They can adjust their shield harmonics accordingly. The Empire's response was predictable. The Emperor, enraged by the destruction of his fleet, ordered an all-out assault on Earth. Every available warship was mobilized. The Empire would crush this uprising with overwhelming force. But overwhelming force was exactly what humanity had spent 50 years preparing for. Deep in the Titan complex, Dr. Nakamura activated systems that had waited decades for this moment. The second wave of dreadnoughts began to power up, their singularity cores coming online one by one. These ships incorporated improvements based on decades of research and development. They were even more powerful than the first wave. Admiral Harrison's voice came through again. Dr. Nakamura, the Empire is mobilizing everything they have. Their entire fleet is moving to attack Earth. Good, Nakamura replied, her voice cold. Let them come. Every ship they send is one more that won't survive to tell the galaxy of their mistake. The Empire had believed humanity weak because they had chosen to appear so. They had mistaken patience for submission, preparation for primitive technology. Now they would learn the true cost of their arrogance. In orbit, the first wave of dreadnoughts maintained their position, their crews calm and ready. Unlike the Empire's forces, they had trained for this moment their entire lives. The ship's quantum cores hummed with contained power, ready to unleash devastation on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. The Empire was coming with everything they had, believing that quantity would overwhelm quality. They didn't understand that humanity had both. For every Imperial ship approaching Earth, humanity had a dreadnought waiting. For every Imperial weapon, humanity had a counter that would turn it against its users. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin, and humanity was ready. The price of the Empire's arrogance would be paid in full. First blood. The void between Jupiter and Saturn became the stage for humanity's first major offensive. Admiral Harrison had chosen this battlefield carefully, far enough from Earth to protect the homeworld, but close enough to maintain full operational control of the dreadnought fleet. The gas giant's gravitational fields would also play a crucial role in their strategy. Imperial fleet dropping out of hyperspace, announced Commander Thaddeus Kane, tactical officer of the Nemesis. 5,000 ships at initial count, more arriving. Harrison watched the tactical display as Imperial warships materialized in waves. The Empire had gathered the largest fleet in its history, nearly 15,000 ships in total. Their formation spread across millions of kilometers, energy weapons charging, missile bays opening. The Empire intended to end this war in a single, overwhelming strike. They're deploying in the hammer and anvil formation, Kane observed. Standard Imperial doctrine for crushing resistance. Harrison's lips curved in a predatory smile. Standard and predictable. Signal all ships. Execute Operation Singularity. The human dreadnoughts began to move, their formation shifting like a living thing. Unlike the rigid, hierarchical formations of the Empire, Earth's fleet operated on principles derived from swarm intelligence. Each ship could act independently while maintaining perfect coordination with the whole. The Empire struck first, as Harrison had known they would. 15,000 ships fired simultaneously, filling space with enough energy to vaporize a planet. Imperial commanders watched with satisfaction, expecting to see the human fleet obliterated. Instead, they witnessed the true power of humanity's quantum shields. The combined firepower of the Imperial fleet was absorbed, channeled, and redirected. The dreadnought's metamaterial hulls glowed briefly as they processed the enormous energy input. Then, in perfect synchronization, they sent it back. The Empire's front line disintegrated as their own energy weapons were turned against them, amplified by the quantum mechanics that humanity had mastered. But this was just the beginning of Harrison's strategy. "All ships, initiate gravitational combat protocols," she ordered. "Execute the Jupiter Gambit." The Dreadnoughts' singularity cores pulsed in unison, creating a cascading series of gravitational waves. The Empire's ships, designed to resist energy weapons and physical impacts, had no defense against weapons that manipulated gravity itself. Entire squadrons were torn apart as space twisted around them. In the Imperial command ship, Grand Admiral Vex watched in horror as his carefully planned assault fell into chaos. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their technology. It violates every law of physics we know." The human fleet pressed its advantage, driving deep into the Imperial formation. Each dreadnought operated as both a weapon platform and a gravity manipulation system, creating a battlefield environment that only they could navigate effectively. Then Harrison revealed her masterstroke. The dreadnoughts near Jupiter began to manipulate the gas giant's gravitational field, creating a massive gravity well that began pulling in Imperial ships. Those that tried to escape found their hyperdrives inexplicably offline, another gift from humanity's quantum technology. "Your Excellency," an Imperial officer reported to Vex, panic evident in his voice, "we're losing ships faster than we can count. Their weapons, we have no defense against them." The battle became a slaughter. Imperial ships, unable to escape or effectively fight back, were systematically destroyed by weapons they couldn't understand. The mighty fleet that had arrived to crush humanity was being dismantled with surgical precision. Dr. Nakamura, watching from the Titan complex, monitored the performance of her creations with professional interest. "The gravity manipulation systems are exceeding specifications," she noted. "The Empire's ships literally cannot exist in the space-time conditions we're creating." After 6 hours of continuous combat, the Empire's grand fleet was reduced to scattered remnants. Of the 15,000 ships that had arrived, barely 300 managed to escape. The human fleet had lost 17 dreadnoughts, each one sacrificed strategically to maximize damage to the enemy. Admiral Harrison stood on her bridge, watching the last Imperial ships flee into hyperspace. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. The Empire's main fleet is destroyed. We're ready to begin the advance toward their core worlds." The victory was more than just military. It was psychological. The Empire had built its reputation on technological superiority, on being the most advanced civilization in known space. In a single battle, humanity had shattered that myth completely. But Harrison knew the war wasn't over. The Empire still controlled vast territories, and their response to this defeat would be brutal. They would call in their vassal states, conscript civilian ships, and throw everything they had at Earth in increasingly desperate attacks. "Commander Kane," she called, "set course for the Orion Spur. It's time to take the fight to their territory." The dreadnoughts reformed their formation, their dark hulls still spotless despite the intense battle. They had been built for a long campaign, and humanity was prepared to see this through to the end. The Empire would learn that their mistake hadn't just been attacking Earth. It had been assuming that humanity's peaceful nature indicated weakness. That mistake would cost them their empire. The Titans clash. The Orion Spur burned. For 3 weeks, humanity's dreadnoughts had carved a path through Imperial space, leaving shattered fleets and liberated worlds in their wake. Admiral Harrison's strategy had been ruthlessly efficient. Target military installations while avoiding civilian casualties. Each victory brought more of the Empire's subjugated species to humanity's banner. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Harrison studied reports from the front lines. The Empire had fallen back to their core systems, abandoning their outer territories in a desperate bid to consolidate their remaining forces. But their retreat had revealed something unexpected. "Admiral." Commander Kane's voice cut through her thoughts. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures from the Sagittarius arm. The Empire, they're awakening their ancient fleet." The ancient fleet, the Empire's last resort, a collection of warships built by their ancestors at the height of their technological prowess. ships so powerful that even the Empire itself had been afraid to use them. Until now. How many? Harrison asked, her voice steady. 3,000 vessels, Admiral. Unlike anything we've encountered so far. Their energy readings are off the charts. In the Titan complex on Earth, Dr. Nakamura received the sensor data with growing concern. The ancient fleet's technology was fundamentally different from modern Imperial ships. These vessels operated on principles that even humanity's advanced science struggled to comprehend. Director, one of her scientists, called out, "We're detecting temporal distortions around the ancient fleet. They're not just manipulating space, they're manipulating time itself." Nakamura's eyes narrowed. The Empire had been holding back their true capabilities, waiting until they were desperate enough to risk using weapons they didn't fully understand. The coming battle would be unlike anything humanity had prepared for. Admiral Harrison gathered her fleet commanders for an emergency conference. The holographic representations of 30 battle-hardened officers materialized on the Nemesis bridge. "The Empire has shown its final hand," Harrison began. "The ancient fleet represents technology beyond our current understanding. But they've also shown their desperation. They're using weapons they fear, and fear will make them predictable." The plan she outlined was audacious. Instead of meeting the ancient fleet head-on, the human dreadnoughts would split into 3 massive battle groups. The first would continue the advance toward the Imperial core worlds, forcing the Empire to divide their forces. The second would position themselves near significant gravitational bodies, stars, black holes, neutron stars. The third, led by Harrison herself, would engage the ancient fleet directly. "They think these ships make them invincible," Harrison concluded. "Let's show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt." The battle began in the vast emptiness between the Sagittarius and Orion arms. The ancient fleet emerged from hyperspace like a constellation of artificial stars, their hulls gleaming with energy that distorted the fabric of reality itself. Their first attack bent time around a squadron of human dreadnoughts, aging the ship's hulls 1,000 years in seconds. But humanity had learned from every encounter with Imperial technology. The dreadnoughts' quantum shields adapted, creating bubbles of stable space-time around each ship. When the ancient fleet tried to tear apart space itself, they found humanity's vessels dancing through the distortions, using the Empire's own temporal weapons against them. Dr. Nakamura's voice crackled through the command channel. "Admiral, we've analyzed their temporal technology. They can't maintain it for long. The power requirements are exponential. Keep them firing. Keep them burning through their energy reserves." Harrison's strategy proved devastating. While the ancient fleet focused on the ships directly engaging them, the second battle group used the gravity of nearby stellar bodies to create a complex web of gravitational distortions. The Empire's temporal weapons began to interact unpredictably with the distorted space-time, causing catastrophic feedback loops in their own ships. The third aspect of Harrison's plan revealed itself when the Empire realized they'd lost a third of their ancient fleet without landing a single decisive blow. They tried to retreat, to regroup and approach with a new strategy. But they found themselves trapped. The human fleet attacking their core worlds had positioned itself to cut off their escape routes. "They're panic-firing now," Commander Kane reported, watching the tactical display. "Their temporal weapons are becoming unstable. Their own ships are being affected by the time distortions." The ancient fleet's desperate final attack backfired spectacularly. Their temporal weapons, pushed beyond their limits, created a cascading failure that rippled through their formation. Ships began to age centuries in moments, their crews experiencing lifetimes in seconds. Others vanished into temporal voids of their own creation. In the end, humanity's victory came not from superior firepower, but from understanding a fundamental truth. The most dangerous weapon is one you don't fully understand. The Empire's ancient fleet, their last and greatest weapon, had become their greatest vulnerability. As the battle concluded, Harrison stood at her viewport, watching the debris of the ancient fleet drift through space. The Empire had committed their final reserves, used their most powerful weapons, and still failed. But the cost had been high. Nearly 500 human dreadnoughts had been lost in the engagement. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered. "The ancient fleet is destroyed. The path to the Imperial throne world is open. It's time to end this war." The remaining dreadnoughts formed up around the Nemesis, their dark hulls bearing the scars of temporal combat. The final phase of the war was about to begin, and humanity would make sure the Empire's defeat was absolute. The Reckoning. The Imperial throne world of Terminus Prime hung in space like a jewel, its crystalline cities stretching across entire continents. For 10,000 years, it had stood as the unassailable center of galactic power. No enemy fleet had ever breached its defenses. No foreign army had ever set foot on its sacred soil. Until now. The remaining human dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their battle-scarred hulls a testament to the cost of their journey. Admiral Harrison stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, watching as the Empire's final defenses came into view. "Planetary shield at maximum power," Commander Kane reported. "They've turned the entire planet into a fortress. Orbital defense platforms are armed with what appears to be prototype weapons based on the ancient fleet's technology." Harrison nodded, having expected nothing less. "Send the Emperor our message. One last chance." The transmission was brief. "Surrender unconditionally, or watch their capital fall." The response came within minutes, a barrage of experimental weapons fire that lit up space itself. "So be it," Harrison whispered. "Execute Operation Exodus." The battle for Terminus Prime began not with a thunderous exchange of fire, but with silence. The human dreadnoughts activated their most closely guarded weapon, technology that Dr. Nakamura had developed by studying the very foundations of reality itself. The quantum nullification field expanded from the human ships like a wave of absolute darkness. Where it touched the Imperial defenses, technology simply stopped. Shields flickered and died. Weapons fell silent. Even the most basic systems ceased to function. In the Imperial Palace, the Emperor watched in horror as his final defenses crumbled. "Impossible," he raged. "No force in the universe can simply negate technology itself." But humanity had done more than that. They had learned to control the fundamental forces that made technology possible. The nullification field was not a weapon of destruction, but of selective negation. Only human technology, specifically designed to function in these conditions, continued to operate. The orbital platforms fell first, their mighty weapons rendered useless. Then the planetary shield collapsed, leaving Terminus Prime exposed for the first time in its history. The Empire's remaining ships, caught in the nullification field, drifted helplessly in space. Harrison's voice carried across all frequencies. "Your technology has failed you. Your power has failed you. Your arrogance has failed you. Surrender and let this end." In the Imperial Palace, chaos reigned. The Emperor, faced with total defeat, made one final desperate decision. He ordered the activation of the Doomsday Protocol, a network of devices designed to tear the planet apart rather than let it fall to an enemy. But even this last act of defiance failed. The nullification field had already rendered the devices inert. The Empire's final weapon had been neutralized before it could even activate. The landing began shortly after. Human troops, protected by personal shields that continued to function in the nullification field, secured the major cities with minimal resistance. The Imperial Palace's defenses, once thought impregnable, stood silent and useless. Admiral Harrison personally led the team that entered the throne room. The Emperor, stripped of his technological advantages, seemed smaller somehow, more mortal. "Do you understand now?" Harrison asked, standing before the throne. "Do you finally see what your arrogance has cost you?" The Emperor's surrender was broadcast across the galaxy. The war that had begun with the death of innocent researchers ended with the complete capitulation of the mightiest empire the galaxy had ever known. In the aftermath, humanity showed a different kind of strength. Instead of destroying the empire, they reformed it. The nullification field was lifted, and the imperial worlds were given a choice. join a new galactic federation, with Earth as a leading member, or govern themselves independently. Dr. Nakamura's technology was not used to subjugate, but to protect. The quantum shields and nullification fields became the foundation of a new defensive network, ensuring that no single power could ever again threaten galactic peace. A year after the war's end, Admiral Harrison stood in the new Federation Council chamber, built on the site of the research station where the conflict had begun. "We could have destroyed them completely," Commander Kane observed, standing beside her. Harrison shook her head. "That was never our goal. The Empire needed to learn that true strength isn't about superior technology or overwhelming force. It's about wisdom, restraint, and the courage to use power responsibly." The galaxy entered a new age. The Federation, built on principles of cooperation and mutual respect, grew stronger than the Empire ever had. Earth's dreadnoughts remained, not as weapons of war, but as guardians of peace. The Empire's fatal mistake had not just been underestimating humanity's military capability. It had been failing to understand that humanity's greatest strength was not in their weapons, but in their capacity for both justice and mercy. The stars shone brighter now, lighting the way toward a future where power served wisdom, and peace was protected by those who understood the true cost of war. The end.